There we go.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for jumping on to our final town hall of the year, our December town hall.
Where the time has gone.
Yeah, we're excited. We're
What a
excited
year.
for, yeah, it's been fantastic.
There's been some challenges. I would say that anybody joining the call, Jim, would have to say that 2025 has presented some challenges across the transportation industry and everything. But that we have people on these calls that are wanting to open up the subjects, what has happened with them, how how this applies to their unique situations. It's just been an absolute pleasure to be on these with you this year.
Yeah, it's been wonderful. It's been great to share the floor with you and hear your expertise and share with the public on all of the knowledge that we have in this space. It's exciting.
Well,
So
thank you.
yeah, thank you. Well, everyone, it's 101 Central, so thank you for jumping on. We appreciate you jumping on for the last final town hall of the year. We're super excited. As we've said in the past, as kind of our introductions, you know, I'm Jim Worsdale, and I've been with JJ Keller for a little bit over 6 years now in a training manager capacity. Prior to prior to being at Keller, I was in fleet operations. I ran a supply chain as a director of safety and transportation, and I've been in some sort of safety capacity for the better part of 24 years. Let me let my partner and subject matter expert introduce himself. Brandon, the floor is yours.
Well, thanks, Jim. So, yeah, Brandon Wooden, I have been in the transportation industry for almost 35 years now. I guess we need to update the slide a little bit moving into 2026. But started my role as an over-the-road truck driver, moved quickly into safety and training, and specifically onboarding new drivers into the industry. This has been the focus of most of my work over that 34-year career. Is how do we take what we know about trucking and what we know about drivers, and how do we start to apply that to improve the way that we communicate with drivers, the way that we talk safety and talk regulations with them, and then also how do we start to get that enthusiasm back into the ownership of the driving role. I want to say in my career, back, Jim, when I was starting out over the road, we didn't have a cell phone. We had a trucker's atlas and our wits, and that was about it. So, for a very fresh-faced and new driver at 22 years old when I got started in this thing, there have been a lot of things that we have put into how we manage transportation and operations in this industry, right? So the idea is that technology changes, but human beings are pretty much operating within the same kind of parameters, especially for drivers and anybody operating a vehicle. Getting into what makes them think and what makes them tick and what are the questions that they're asking is a huge part of what these town halls are about. I'm happy to be here, Jim. I am super happy to have been sharing this stage with you now for the last several months, and looking forward to a lot more of this in 2026 if we can keep this going.
Absolutely, partner. It's exciting. It's a lot of fun. It's my favorite hour of the month for sure.
Excellent.
Yep. So we're going to talk about just the topics that we visited in 2025, and we had four of them that were our top topics. Uh, the first one comes in as narrative driving. So that was a big visited topic. We had almost 100 people register for that particular one. Our second one was establish a culture of safety, which I think was maybe number three or number four on the list. Our third one was developing training built for buy-in.
Hmm.
And our fourth one was winter roads, holiday loads, which I believe was our October topic, which was a good one, was a real fun one. But
And we had a
before
lot
we,
of good feedback on that one too, right? We
oh,
had a
it
lot of
was
people that were talking about, okay, yeah, we're moving into this season, and how do we get these drivers to get this kind of thing where we can all kind of lay down at night and get some rest at the end of the day, right?
and how to get ahead of it. It's been a brutal winter so far up north and in some of these northern states, and being able to maneuver that is not easy. It's a very difficult process. And how are you get on the same page with your fleets, and how does it work, and what does it look like, and how does the communication come out, and what's the feedback, and so there's a lot involved in that. So, but
Certainly is.
but before we get to that, I don't know if many of you are part of this process. We had in the last 3 weeks dozens of clients of ours that have been with us in our ELDT program that was built by our subject matter expert here behind the
one,
scenes.
one of the people that maybe had a little influence on that, right?
For sure, for sure. But they had their first audits. The mandate went into effect in February of 2022. We haven't really seen an audit, so there has been an audit blitz where a bunch of our clients have come back to us saying, "Man, the ELDT sent us this notice. This is what it looks like. They're going to be here next week." So we've had probably 24 clients go through audits in the last couple of weeks. So we wanted to kind of visit them. Brandon, I kind of put together some information here
Yeah.
regarding the audit. So these audits came, and it was a notice that came across from the FMCSA. It was, one of those general statements that you've seen in the past. It says we're going to be at your location in 7 to 10 days. They'll reach out, they'll contact you. Tell us a little bit about this. What the expectations are, what we're looking at, and this was kind of the list that they provided on what we were looking at. So
the first thing that I will say is that anybody that's in an entry-level driver training program that is mandated by the FMCSA must first know that the FMCSA intends to audit programs if they have a mandate behind it, whether they have the capacity to do so, whether they have the staffing in place or anything. If you are in a transportation program that is mandated by the FMCSA, it's not if they're going to audit you, it's going to be when they're going to get around to doing that. However, there is a way to kind of stay toward the back of the line. And we all know this. Any time that we've ever done anything that says, hey, we're producing good, safe results from the program, we are matriculating more people through the program, and then we're also not part of the driver churn because of our entry-level driver training program. These kind of things is where the FMCSA says, okay, let's shine a light on these that are still not performing well enough due to that, and then we'll start to come back to the rest of them. However, FMCSA, when they do this kind of thing, they will take who is in there, who is active, let's send it out and say, hey, this is coming. One of the things, and this is just me speculating, so please do not take this as something that I know, but it's something that I think happens, is they expect that sometimes the notice will actually facilitate people to start to do the right thing. The notice comes and then people go, oh, wait a second, are we prepared for this? Have we got everything in order correctly? They start to look at it more closely. So typically when the FMCSA has a mandated program or something where that is new, you can expect 2 years, 3 years that the FMCSA is then going to come in and start to look at those organizations that have committed to doing something, but then really aren't doing that. And, we know that there are organizations out there that are performing substandard. We know that organizations are out there everywhere that are doing business as usual, even though it's mandated. And these are going to be the ones that are going to have to say, we're going to have to get our ducks in a row just a little bit more. Our program, for that matter, is truly, we believe, and we have evidence of this, truly helpful for programs that want to say, you know what, yes, we need to conform to this FMCSA mandated program, but more than that, we understand the value in putting good, safe drivers behind the wheel, and we want this to increase our safety image. We want this to increase our ability to retain drivers, all of those kind of things, and that's why we're doing the entry-level driver training program. Jim, you remember when this thing came out, we had so many clients that say, hey, we want to start looking at entry-level driver training now that we have a roadmap. And when they came to us, we kind of, we've always had a roadmap for this. We just haven't ever had a roadmap that was mandated by the FMCSA. So did the FMCSA do everything that some of us that have been in entry-level driver training for our entire careers, did they do everything that we expected that they would? No. they came close on a lot of things, and I think that they did strive to move that needle where we want it to be, which says that if you are an entry-level driver in this industry, you can expect to have some sort of incident, accident, or some sort of a disqualifying offense in your first 3 to 6 months. I've said this before, and I'll say this again. If you really look at the numbers, the transportation industry faces a churn problem with drivers coming in, not knowing what they're doing, flaming back out again in a very early amount of time, or disqualifying themselves early in their careers. This stacks up the need for drivers as well. I think that there's a lot of this that's going to be reach out to us. I mean, if I was if I was going to send a message out to the community, reach out to JJ Keller and Associates, and we can help you assess your entry level driver training program, see where the gaps are, prepare you for audits. That's kind of what we do, and we've known this is coming now for probably the better part of 2 years in order for us to be able to prepare those clients that we have in our ELDT program with how to weather this new audit blitz. I like audit blitz. Sounds like we're sounds like we're in the middle of a thing, right?
Yeah, no, it was definitely a wild process. We had conversations, preparing clients, um, working through this process, and going through this. So the whole process, when it comes to this, is very difficult to navigate. It's the first time that they've ever had an ELDT blitz or any sort of audit that we heard of. But we did have one of our clients, a large fleet, that came to us with a big brand, large fleet, that came to us and said the auditor came in. He asked us for certain things. We pulled out the JJ Keller file. He saw that it was JJ Keller. He said, "You guys have a great day," and walked right back out the door. So there's something to be said, knowing that we have an established product, established what in the industry, that we can train the trainers to then train your drivers. So
Right.
it's been proven. So it's fantastic. So hands up, has anybody impacted by the audit blitz? Has anybody heard from them, or have you been part of that process where you've been audited, or do you have an ELDT program that's been audited?
That's what I was going to ask. I was going to ask
Yeah.
how many people on the call right now do you have an entry-level driver training program in place, and have you received that notice from the FMCSA? So one of the things we probably need to do some housekeeping. I'm not sure how many new people are on the call or anything, but this is definitely an open forum. We want to hear from you. So if you want to raise your hand, if you have a question, pop it in the chat. I know Mitchell was talking about driver training or sales pitch. If you're new to this particular call, this is just where we share information that we know is coming up, share our thoughts on it. And yes, we are sponsored by JJ Keller and Associates, and part of our programs have been designed so that we can talk about them, so that we can say, hey, what's going on in your fleet, what's going on with your drivers, and how can we help solve for those things. So appreciate you being here, by the way, and thanks for joining the call. To your point, Jim, let's open it up. Is there anybody here on the call right now? You can use the raise your hand feature in Teams, or even just open up your mic, and we will not limit that in any way. So let us know. Are you an entry-level driver training provider? I know we've got Dusty on here, and if it's the Dusty that I know of, that would be, yeah, you've been in this thing for a long time, Dusty Couchard. And I know you've been in this industry for a while now. So thanks for being on the call again, Dusty.
So, I know one of the questions that has come to me via some of our sales associates who are helping people through this is, if they're not on the ELDT, they're not on the TPR, but they hire entry level drivers. Like, how do they, like, what impact is this going to have on people who are already like in their system? but
None.
they didn't train them. Okay.
Yeah, none is a very short answer. The longer answer, Janice, and Janice, by the way, this is she's our producer on the show and everything. So thanks for the question, Janice. But if you hire entry level drivers that were trained by a training provider, then this should not impact that at all. Now, I do say that, but there is also the possibility that if they are brand new drivers, found out that the training provider was not doing things the right way, was issued a CDL incorrectly. The FMCSA always does reserve the right to be able to revoke CDLs if they were given in a false pretense or if they were given in error somehow. They do have the right to reserve the right to do that. Getting to that place is really takes a while. It's not something that they immediately jump to. Usually what happens is when an FMCSA comes in and audits your training program, they will give suggestions for improvement. They'll note the things that are not in place for you, and then they'll give you a time period in which to make those corrections. Now, if they go in and it is really just everything is not up to par according to the mandate, then they could shut you down. But as far as hiring entry level drivers, one thing that I think is great about this, and I'll say it real quick and then we'll move on. But Janice, you bring up a subject that I've always had some interest in. In the transportation industry, who do we call an entry level driver? The FMCSA refers to it as anybody that is obtaining a CDL license. That would be an entry-level driver, and so the mandate applies to training them in order for them to get to obtain their CDL. The industry, I think of an entry-level driver as somebody without any experience. They're coming to me and they haven't ever done this before, and we do have to associate with things like testing and things like training and things like bringing somebody into a safety culture, making sure that their behaviors are aligning with what we want to see when we're sending somebody out there to perform in the industry. All those things I think are absolutely vital. Jim, you have talked about this before. We've talked about this on previous calls before, accepting a CDL in lieu of road test. I think it's a huge thing that companies say, okay, you got a CDL, that means you passed the test. We don't have to road test you. And I feel very comfortable in saying that I believe that is a little bit of a fool's errand to
Yeah,
not know who you're putting behind the wheel. Test them, see what they need checked out, and then train them.
I hate that, and I don't want to be rude, but the industry best practice standard is qualifying them on the vehicle that they're going to be operating. And that's the way you should be doing it. In fact, we've had two large clients this year come to us to do direct to driver for that exact reason, where they were
Sure.
using CDL in lieu of what they were doing. So, you have to be able to get them comfortable with that vehicle, understanding that vehicle, qualifying them on that vehicle. I know when I was in the world that 0 to 1 year CDL Class A's licenses really just gave me headaches and pain with all the accidents and incidents, just because they may have they may have gone through a trucking school or gotten their CDL, but they really didn't have on road experience, and it really showed when they really got out there. And it was
Janice is gonna love this because what we're talking about here is, Janice, do you want to say?
I'm gonna guess Alice Cooper effect.
The Alice Cooper effect, exactly. CDL schools that prepare somebody, and I'm going to say that the mandate might have and should have taken care of some of the Alice Cooper effect. Training providers now having to prepare a driver for a standard that is above the test that they are about to take, but didn't used to be that way. I'm looking at you, Dusty. We know that a lot of times in our CDL schools back in the day, we were preparing them to take that CDL test. And then once they had the CDL, that was it for us. They're going to move to their company. For me, and my role in that was always that I fully expected, and I was a CDL examiner as well. So what we thought is that surely the company that buys this person or hires this person is going to put them through some sort of real world training so that they can have a success in the industry. That was our hope. That was our plan. the FMCSA has put some measures in place to say we don't think that the training was adequate. I call it the Alice Cooper effect. I'll say to anybody that's new to the call, the Alice Cooper effect is basically built on that old song, School's Out for Summer or School's Out Forever. And what I'm saying by this is that a lot of times if we're in a training program with a test at the end, that is the goal of the program. As soon as you take that test, everything goes out the window, school's out forever, and then you're on to the next thing. So if you ever get a driver that has gone through a CDL program and they really look like you can ask this question. I hear it all the time. What in the world did you learn? Because you sure don't know how to drive a truck. They learned it in order to pass a test, and then they forgot it because that's what they were learning for. It is a true condition, and it's not a condition just in transportation industry. There are a lot of places where you can see the Alice Cooper effect. All our training, all I'm saying, Jim, all of our training has to be on what am I going to do with the information next. If
Sure.
I don't know how I'm going to use this information, test me all you want. But if I don't have a way to apply it practically and correctly in what I'm about to do, then you have not addressed the basic needs of the adult learner in your program.
100%. And that is what we cover in our training practices. But let's get into the topics. We had some really good topics this year. Let's talk a little bit about the topic. So narrative drive, you're an expert in this, and one of my favorite things that you say is driving on an island. So talk a little bit about the See Decide Act principles. What is driving on an island? Asking behavior questions, what if questions. How does that work?
Well, it's interesting. I think you and I even had a conversation about this earlier today, Jim, that we focus back on. In fact, one of our editors is writing an article right now trying to discern what the following distance means, or are we still correct in our assessment of following distance? Are we using old modeling for that? And what should we say is counting following distance? Following distance is absolutely an important metric. It's an important scientific, issue that brings up perception time, eye lead time, reaction time, response time. All of those things are factored into how much following distance we should have mathematically. What we say is that See Decide Act means that if I'm counting following distance, but I'm missing somebody merging into my space, all the following distance in the world won't save me from those things that I have that are coming into my field, into my frame that I'm going to have to respond to. I say it this way, if you've ever looked over and gone, what in the heck are they doing right now? You are asking what if questions. You're just asking them too late. What it should be is that I'm looking at a car and I'm saying, I'll bet they're going to do that, or I'll bet they're thinking about a lot of other things rather than navigating the highway alongside me right now. And then drive on an island means if I'm there on my island with nobody around me and I'm waiting for people to come on my island and go, I don't really want you here. I'm maintaining space around my vehicle and I'm staying comfortable behind the wheel as I operate it down the road. I look at it this way. If we're looking at following distance, we really should also be saying, where is the cliff edge for you? I don't know how many of you on the call do this, but if you've ever walked out to the edge of like a high place, a building or a ledge or a cliff for that matter, and as you start to approach the edge, how do you feel? Typically, the response is, yeah, start to get a little uneasy. Why? You are on solid footing. You haven't really done anything dramatic in order that will pitch you over the cliff. But we all have that tendency to say, let me stay back here where it's safe. Leaping out onto the edge of the cliff, so many things could happen there. If we can take that into our driving as well and start to feel uncomfortable when things start to get a little bit dicey, and then we know the best way to do this is stay back from the cliff edge, stay where I know I'm safe, practice that kind of principle. That can be a huge way to include counting eye lead time with the behaviors that are around it for us to feel safe and feel comfortable in our space that we're navigating around the roads that we're driving on. So I love narrative driving because it also changes a little bit. What we would typically call narrative driving is going to be commentary driving. to me, and when we were writing the principles of defensive driving, that didn't resonate as much as me thinking that what we should be doing is creating a narrative that says, I wonder what they're thinking right now. Because there's a lot of times that we would be in a reactive position when we can really start to create the narrative. I'll bet they're thinking about this. I'll bet they're not paying attention right now. I'll bet they're doing one thing or another. And so it helps me be able to prepare myself to be in response or to anything that somebody else is doing. If I can just look at them and say, I'll bet you're thinking about something other than where I am and what my position in traffic is right now. Does that make sense? How if we are counting following distance, but we're not really saying, I'll bet somebody is not thinking about being on the road right now, it solves part of the problem, but it doesn't really solve the entire issue.
No, I totally agree with you, Brandon. I love the idea of narrative driving. It's fantastic. If you've never been a part of something, uh, being able to see we have incorporated video road coaching, and COVID changed the game for us with the pandemic, and being able to road test or showing people how to road test effectively using the camera, using the videos, and being able to go through those videos and allowing somebody to identify those behaviors was a big part of what we're doing, and it's been incorporated into our training for a couple of years now. So
It really has.
yep. So it's been a game changer. So Brandon, topic number 2, establishing a culture of safety. I think that is at the forefront when you're talking about this. And this might have been our first topic when we were
I
talking
was going to
about this.
say, I think this was one of our first topics where we
Yeah.
were talking about how the first part of building a safety culture that includes proper training for drivers, and this does not have to be a CDL. I know that a lot of you, in fact, I'd like to ask how many of you all are either managers or supervisors or even drivers of non-commercial vehicles and are looking at this as a way to keep, hey, this is to keep my family safe as well. When we're talking about behavior, it does not have to necessarily just apply to tractor trailer operators. It can apply to your kids learning how to drive or anything like that. But in any organization, we need to approach new drivers, especially with what is our culture of safety? What do we believe in? Think about the first time you show up. If your coach has you in the locker room, but you have no idea what the mindset of the team believes in. You feel distant from that, and then you end up having to make a lot of it up for yourself. I say this, take this into your families. If anybody here has teenagers that are about to start driving, or anybody that they know who's about to move into this world of licensed drivers, talk to them about what your belief in is in safety and in stewardship on the road, and then treat handing them a car. I've said this on another call, I remember it specifically now. I approached with my kids are both grown now, but I approached whenever we were teaching them how to drive the same way. I live in a small town in southwest Missouri, and I grew up on a farm, and we did a lot of cutting wood and that kind of thing. And so when I first got a hold of a chainsaw, I knew it wasn't a toy. I knew it was a tool, and I knew it was a tool to get a job done. And if we could start to think about handing these vehicles, which are very dangerous tools, to our children, to anybody that we know we have to trust now to be out there using this tool, teach them how to use it safely, teach them how to respect it, teach them that it is a tool and not a toy. Because I remember we talked about this before. What does a 16-year-old think a car is? It's one word. What did you think, Jim, whenever you were 16 years old and you were getting your license? What was it to you?
It was freedom.
It was freedom. That's exactly what it is. So freedom also commands a huge amount of responsibility. And if we are free to be able to navigate this roadway in this country, we also have to be doing that responsibly and teaching children that this is a tool. It operates a certain way. It has a certain way of failing. It also is something that you have to pay attention to the way it's operating as you're using it, or the consequences can be catastrophic. It's a different way of introducing driving into a new population of drivers. for our companies, it's more about get them on the team. I would say I love the idea of, giving them the shirt with the logo on it, give them a ball cap, tell them thank you for joining our team. Here's what we believe in. And then get them in there knowing that first, because if you can establish that kind of connection with anybody that's onboarding into your system, you can then take that and say, and now here's how we get this done. Start with the why is what I'm saying. Start with the why do we believe these things? Why are we committed to them? How do we then demonstrate that we're committed to these things? And now what is our program that's in place to make sure that we are meeting those commitments? If you can structure your training system that way and structure your safety system that way, you will be more likely to have an effective safety system at your company.
Fantastic. Thanks for sharing, Brandon.
Of course, absolutely. Yeah, this is great. I love going back to stuff that we've already talked about in 2025. But I also want to open it up to people that are on the call. How many of you all joined us for either one of those meetings where we're going back and talking about, establishing buy-in, narrative driving, how to establish a safety culture? And how many now, because it's been a few months, how many of you all applied some of that? And can you open your mics and tell us if any of it, made sense to you? Did you see any kind of improvements just from taking that into your system? Please don't have anybody be silent right now, because I think it'll work and I have seen it work before. We also would love to hear back from you if you're trying any of these things and have questions. I love answering questions, and I love it when people will reach out to me. You can always email me at jwooden@jjkeller.com. You can, and it's going to sound a little similar, but Jim Worsdale can also be reached at jworsdale@jjkeller.com. Janice, I think we have some contact information on one of the final slides on this thing as well, but we really want to hear from you because we really care about the way that you all are moving through this. So who's been on those meetings before? I saw one thumbs up, but any stories that you can tell us from the year? Everybody's very shy. Whenever I start to get on a roll, it seems like we get people that are shy to
it is
open their
late
mic.
in December. It's late in the year. I think everybody's a little tired and a little wore out with everything we got going on.
Full of figgy pudding and whatever
right.
whatever beverage is your choice on on a cold winter's night, right?
That's right. That's right. So piggybacking on the safety culture idea, developing training built for buy-in. Like, how do you do it? And you've mentioned this a couple times on our calls. What are the principles that your company, you call them the true north principles, what's your guiding light?
Yeah, so I remember this as I don't want to call it a part one and part two of establishing a safety culture, but it really was. When you establish with your leadership or with your organization or even within yourself, if you are a key a difference maker that way, then you are establishing that thing, and now you have to put it out there and see how it works. In order to get buy-in, you have to expect people to look at it and give you feedback. If you give it to them and say, this is the way it is, do it because I told you to, that ain't buy-in anymore, guys. That is telling somebody what to do. That's training. That's not teaching. That's training, not developing. When we think about training a human being, I want to say this, and I will go on record and say it is impossible to train a human being. Human beings know who they are. They have a ton of self-efficacy. You have to convince a human being that you're right, and then you have to give them all the tools to be able to facilitate what they know is right from then on. It's a different way of thinking about training. Training is do it because I told you to. If you want to say do this because it makes sense, there has to be a conversation and at the first of that, and you have to be resolute about what true north means. True North guided captains across the oceans way back before we had any of the technology that we have. They trusted it. They counted on it. They knew what it was and they could navigate by it. We can carry that philosophy into what we are doing right now with safe driving just by saying these are the things we believe in, and we will not back off of the things that we believe are going to keep us safe, are going to keep us profitable even, And those two things must go together, or else you will just be building all kinds of dissonance between what you think is true north principles in your safety culture and what you are thinking about profitability. Those will be challenged by drivers as well. I know this firsthand, that when drivers start to look at, this is what I do because it is the right thing to do, they had better be supported by your safety culture in doing that. Otherwise, you're talking out of both sides of your mouth. Unfortunately, we see that sometimes, don't we?
Yes, we do. I think the important part, and it's difficult to build a consistent training program. And I think as a leader, speaking as leadership that have been in this role before, you have to be approachable. And when you're involving your team in the process and you're working through these conversations to where you can clear the air, you can have conversations. There might be one part of your training program that needs to change or needs to be adjusted on the fly. Working through that to fit your needs to be able to build that not only builds credibility for you as a leader, but it also gives you the buy-in from your team, and it allows you to be to work through the program, build it, adjust, and then at the same time you build consistency throughout the program because everybody is working together at that point. So I think it's a big part of it. The driver feedback, I don't think a lot of programs utilize this as driver feedback when you're
We're
seeing through this and
scared.
how,
We're scared to
yeah,
death of it. How many of
yeah,
y'all have ever walked into a safety meeting and went, "Oh gosh, they are going to kill me right now in this meeting as we announce the new thing, the latest thing that we're going to do. Please just let me get through the next 30 minutes without Joe Schmo over here jumping up
oh,
and derailing the entire thing." I should expect to see a lot of hands or a lot of thumbs up on people that are afraid to walk into a safety meeting where they're going to announce some change to a crowd full of drivers expecting, okay, now here's going to be the bombardment of all of the opposition to this. I'd say I demand it. If we have ever put anything forward, I demand conversation on it. I will not just leave the meeting without asking questions in a different way, even. If I'm not getting anybody on a call answering my questions, ask it a different way. Expect those questions to come back, because guess what? You can't work with what you don't know. You can't work with what is behind the veiled curtain of secrecy or disconnect. You can't work with that. Leaders, I'm talking to you. If you know what's going on and you know the attitudes around it, then you can work with that. But if you want to just say, I said my message and now they're going to do whatever the heck they want to do after that, then you will never improve your program. You will never get it any better, and it will constantly just be a back and forth. If you ask for it, don't just ask, demand it. I need your input on these things right now. I need to know how this is going to work in the field when we put it out there in the field. Guess what else you get from that? You get your champions. You get the people that say, I want to work this out for you, boss. I believe in the True North principles. I love the message and everything, but here's what we're going to run up against. These are all of the people that you need to have on your side, working with them to try to get this thing to work for everybody. Does that make sense?
100%. I get
It's
it.
difficult. Let me tell you something. It ain't easy. It is going to be one of the tougher things that you do in leadership, and especially safety leadership, is open up the floor and demand people to poke it apart a little bit. I always like to give the Mike Kilt story just a little bit right
Mm-hmm.
now. And
Mm-hmm.
when I talk about this guy, oh my goodness, I mentioned his name. I'll have to give him a call later on and say, hey, listen, I used your full name on a call. He's one of our trainers and one of the finest people that I've ever met in the training industry. And Mike Kilt's, when I came to Keller, I came with a vehicle inspection process and methodology that was proven to be effective and efficient and the right way to perform vehicle inspections, especially for anybody that's trying to learn all of these systems. It's the systematic vehicle inspection that we use at JJ Keller right now. But the example I give is this. When I came to Keller, we had between 40 and 60 trainers. We got that number up to over 120 at one point in the program, especially when we had entry level driver training as a huge push. But my goal was to get J.J. Keller's vehicle inspection being done this way so that we could have a conformed system. Everybody knew how to do this, and we could also move forward into the industry with this vehicle inspection. So my question is always, and you can plug it into the chat here if you weren't on the call before, if you already, you can bury the punchline a little bit, and some of you guys I have known from the industry before, but if I had 60 driver trainers, how many different ways of doing an inspection did I have to work with? 59, great, okay. Chris?
That's great, Chris. That's
That's great,
fantastic.
Chris. I love it. I love it. He is dead on. We had about between 50 and 60 different ways. Some of this was just, I don't really know how to do an inspection. You need to teach me how to do yours. And so it was good. But Mike held out. He said, I don't want to do it. I am not interested in it. I don't care about this, and I'm not going to do it. So here's where we're at. We're at trying to push something out there that we know is going to work and it's going to be a best practice. And we have a driver that's pushing back because it ain't their way. They didn't do it. They have their way. They want you to listen to them. They don't care about what you're saying right now. So it's not a magic pill, what I'm about to tell you guys. But what I told Mike is I want you to try it this way for a week and then tell me what's wrong with it. Now, in doing that, we came to a compromise, right? We came to I've got this thing I'm trying to do. Mike, you have an opposition to it. No, I don't have to hear your way. I'm still going to be on this side here with my way of doing it is the right way to do it. And I could just make you do it. But instead, I want you to try it for a week and tell me what's wrong with it. Mike came back with 3 things that he didn't terribly care for with it. And I said, all of those are not deal breakers, Mike. And Mike became one of the biggest champions of the vehicle inspection process. Right now, he's an old Marine. He's a pretty tough Marine, ex-Marine, ex-military, and he's now driving it down people's throats. So I don't have to do that anymore. But this is a way you can recognize your champions. And thank you guys, Chris, Dusty, both of you guys for chiming in on that. But you're right. There may be a million different ways of doing a vehicle inspection. If you know the way that you want it done, then don't settle for less. Make that a true north principle. Say, well, this is what we will do, and then give the reason why, and then give enough tools to make it happen. I can't talk enough about this if you haven't noticed. Developing buy-in is absolutely necessary to be able to quickly facilitate what you want in your safety culture, is to try to get that buy-in established.
So for the essence of time, we're going to move to topic 4. You have driven this country, the lower 48 states in Canada, and gone through this process. And you've seen a lot. You and I have had conversations around some rough winters and some difficulties. Used to hand off load trucks in the winter and go through that process. So how would you prepare? How through the process with your 30 plus years experience? What do you recommend, and how does that work? How are you preparing to get on the road in the winter?
Well, the first thing that I would do in September when the fall started to come around is I would just start to get a little bit depressed and anxious and nervous that everything was going to slow down. And if you were behind, the thing is that holidays also, this is when we're spending money for holiday gifts. This is when we want to be home with our families. This is when the cold and the isolation of our jobs as over-the-road truck drivers is even more amplified because we know it's the holidays, because everything is about home and hearth and families being together, and we are in a job that takes us away from all of that. So I think that it's not necessarily just preparing with the what, but also the emotional preparation that needs to be made there. Get your stuff. I mean, for me, Jim, it's as simple as get my stuff bought early. If I can be buying things right now to where I don't have to worry about last minute holiday shopping, that takes something off of my plate to be able to go out and be able to work right up through what I need to do. The second is communicate with your family. Your family has to be prepared for this to happen, and they have to all understand as well. When I talk about creating buy-in with your drivers, hope, at least keep your fingers crossed that that buy-in is also going to go down to their families, because their families are also super influential on how they perform at work. I don't know how many of you all have ever been out there as a truck driver and it ain't good at home, or something is happening, and how much that pulls you away from the job that you have to get done and get done correctly. Creating strong, healthy habits for being with family, including them in everything, is really a good way to be prepared. Meanwhile, yes, the what. Make sure that you know how to do a good vehicle inspection. Make sure that you've built the habit of doing that, because if you're trying to dust off habits just because the weather is bad and suddenly the boss is looking at you more, then you will not be able to do that. A habit is something that has to be ingrained. It has to be repeated. It has to be the same way. It has to be the thing that you do just because you do it. And if anybody ever asks you, why do you do this? The answer is, why don't you? This is a habit that I get into, and I do it every single day, because if I don't do it, I don't feel right about stuff all of a sudden. Brushing your teeth in the morning, it's what we bring up all the time. Anybody over here not brush their teeth this morning or evening? Usually the hands are dead silent. No, of course we did. So why did you do it? There isn't even a thought in our head. It's just what we do. It's why that goes out of the picture, because it's a habit. Emergency preparedness is going to be a way for us to structure a way for drivers to know how to not only know the tools that are available to them, weather apps, communications, anything that they would need on their truck that would help them if things get bad, but also how to use them. I showed my dad a weather app. I can't mention the name or anything like this, but I showed him a weather app and he was like, "Oh, that's great. How do I get it on my phone?" Well, okay, yeah, it's a great weather app, but if dad doesn't know how to put it on his phone, he's not ever going to be able to use that weather app. Okay, so I showed him how to put it on the phone. And then the question started coming, well, what else can I check for? What else can I do here? How can I do all of those things? So what I took that as just a little example of how, when we give somebody a tool, but then we tell them to go figure it out for themselves, we're not really coming back to the let me help you get prepared for this thing. So be prepared for anything that you put in front of your drivers as a way to say, do you know how to use it? Show me how you use that. Teach me how to use it. If all of those kind of things come into the way that you're working with your drivers, it's just going to strengthen that. Adjusting driving habits. Jim, you and I were talking about this earlier today as well. I'm going to ask the poll. It's going to be an unofficial, sorry, Janice, an unofficial poll. If you were to write down in the meeting chat right now and you were driving through your town or your city or wherever you are from, give me the top thing, first thing that comes to your mind about what drivers are thinking about right now as they are driving through your town. Anything, it could be anything. I've got mine, what I think they're thinking of. Jim, you got yours. Janice has got hers. What the heck is a galloping ghost? Okay, I love it. So that's what everybody is thinking as they're driving down the road. Jim, what do you think
Oh,
most
there's a
people are thinking of?
statue.
Oh, okay. What do you think most people are thinking about right
They're
now?
they're not focused on their driving. They're thinking about what's on their mind, things that they got going on with their day, where where they're going to, stressors in life. They're not thinking about the driving aspect. They're thinking about 100 other things.
I have a feeling that whenever the holiday lights go out on the signposts and all of the shops start to open up for Christmas and all those kind of things, that's where everybody is thinking. Everybody is thinking, okay, did I get so and so? Oh gosh, I need to get to the shop. Oh gosh, we've got family coming over. Oh my goodness, I'm going to have to clean the house. Or oh my goodness, yeah, that's all. Yeah, my spouse, my partner does
Mm-hmm.
all of that, but it's still in their mind. Anything that we put into our minds has to take room there. And if we put something in our head that takes the space of concentrating on the action that we are currently undergoing, then we know that there's a disconnect there. So adjusting driving habits could simply mean be where your feet are, be in that place, and then know that you will have the ability to transition when you get to where you're going into what you're going to do next. We teach this all the time. If you are thinking about, if you're let's say an energy company and you're going out to repair the power lines or something like this, if you're already thinking about what that power line's going to do, but you're driving to the place, you are not in the moment of taking care of the situation right now, which is getting there. You got to get there to be able to do that. And of course, visibility, awareness, all of those things become heightened in the wintertime. We don't have to tell you that. That's obvious. But what we want to do is we want to start to talk about how do our habits adjusted to limited visibility, more darkness, driving at night more because of the time and because of the shorter days. All of those things, I think that they're incredibly important to think that we do this as a cycle. Spring comes, hey, I started to get a little bit happier. I started to be able to drive more. I started to be able to come out of the fog of winter that settled on me just getting through it. Summer came, then fall, and immediately the cycle happened all over again. Getting ahead of drivers and saying, you know what, we know what you're about up to, what you're up against. We know what you're about to do. Let's take some time to talk about it. Let's take some time to formulate the plan there. I think it's a good way to get through the holidays. It's a good way to get through winter.
Well, I can't thank you enough, partner. This has been a great conversation as always, and to round out the year, we appreciate everybody taking the time to jump on the call. We would challenge what we're going to be going into 2026, and we're going to be doing these town halls next year, talking about different things. Our first topic is going to be around emotional intelligence behind the wheel. We'd love to hear from you. What sort of ideas do you have? Are there some topics that you guys have come up with or have talked about with your fleets, or you had conversations about that you would like to hear from us? So we would love to hear your ideas on how we want to hear about these town hall sessions. Janice, do we want to put it in the chat? How would you like them to reach out?
Yeah, if you want to put them in the chat right now, otherwise, I'll put my email, because these ideas might strike you after the event here. So I'm just going to put
In your
my
personal phone number, where to reach out to you, Janice, so that
right.
whenever I've got
Yeah,
one of those days.
hit me on
To
all the socials.
to to
Yeah,
Brand
email's fine.
to
Great.
Brandon's call out, these wouldn't be possible without our producer Janice. So Janice, thank you very much for all your help this year.
Absolutely. Yep.
Absolutely, for putting this together for us. Thank you very much for your time.
She gets on camera every once in a while. I don't know. Usually she
Well,
stays in the background, but sometimes she
I'll
graces
have
us with her.
a
Ah,
holiday
there she
There she
miracle.
is.
I'll say
is.
Love
It's
it.
a
to
it's a
everyone.
Saturnalia miracle.
Yeah. Well, one other thing that I know, and that is on our future topics here too, that I guess I'll throw out on, and I know we've got a smaller group left on the call here today, but we would love to have either trainers or drivers help
Absolutely.
us lead these calls as well. So talk about the real world. I mean, we're talking the real world scenarios, but like their specific experiences and be able to share that. So if you are brave enough, use that email address as well and send me a note, and we'll work together on a topic if you've got a certain level of expertise and want to share with these same audience here that we have every month.
Absolutely. Yeah, love that idea, Janice. Thanks.
And I am also going to drop the link to the next, the one scheduled for January 22nd. So if you want to go ahead and register right away,
Awesome.
we'll get you the link.
Fantastic. As always, all of these town halls are sponsored by JJ Keller, PODD, Principles of Defensive Driving. If you're interested in learning more about this program, please feel free to reach out. JJ Keller, safeandsmart.com. It's got all of the information on there. It's got our telephone number as well. If you're interested in in doing that in the new year, we have a free training needs assessment and a 10% off of your first principles defensive driving contract. So we thank you so very much for taking the time to spend an hour with us, and we really value your time. We hope you have a wonderful holiday season and Merry Christmas to all of you, and hope to see you all in the new year. Thank you for everything.
Stay safe, everybody. Have a happy new
All right.
year. Thank you for being on the call.
Thanks, everyone.